Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of BioLogic Science News. Today I want to talk about a discovery made by the European Southern Observatory with their high-accuracy radial velocity planet searcher, also called HARPS. From the La Silla Observatory in Chile, they examined numerous red dwarf stars. These stars are relatively small and cool, and relatively dim, but they're easily the most common type of star. This makes the red dwarf stars ideal for planet hunting, because all of these qualities make it easier to see any orbiting planets. Because they're small and cool, any Earth-like planets will be orbiting relatively closely, and thus they'll exert a more observable tug on their parent star. Being physically closer to the star will also make the star's brightness dip more when the planet orbits in front of it. The problem for life is that most red dwarf stars are not very calm. They exhibit bursts of ultraviolet and X-ray energy that would sterilize any nearby planets. This is where the recent observations at the ESO become really exciting, because they found an exoplanet around a red dwarf star that doesn't have these eruptions. The red dwarf star is Ross 128, which exists about 11 light-years away from Earth, but it's moving through the galaxy towards us. Ross 128 is calculated to become our nearest astronomical neighbor, some 80,000 years or so into the future. The discovered planet in this system is called Ross 128b. It's a low-mass terrestrial planet with a year that lasts 9.9 Earth days. The year is so short because Ross 128b orbits very close to its parent star, on the order of 1/20th of an astronomical unit, or 1/20th the distance between Earth and our Sun. If the star was unstable or released high-energy radiation, this proximity would be a serious problem for any potential life on Ross 128b. This exposure to high-energy radiation would normally just blast apart any simple, delicate biomolecules. But because Ross 128 is a pretty calm star, Ross 128b only gets 1.38 times the radiation that Earth does. I mean, that's an increase, but it's not unreasonable. 1.38 times the radiation on Earth is within the general range of radiation exposure that's not only survivable here on Earth, but it's actually strong enough that it might be able to promote mutations and encourage evolution, but not to the point where life just isn't stable because it gets too many mutations. So, should life exist on Ross 128b, it's possible that the rate of genetic evolution, the molecular clock, if you will, would work more rapidly there than it does here on Earth. But there are a lot of unanswered questions about Ross 128b. We don't know that much about it. The researchers aren't even sure if the exoplanet could have liquid water, because they aren't sure if it's orbiting in its habitable zone, on the inner edge of the habitable zone, or on the inside of the habitable zone where it's so hot that liquid water boils away into gas. It'll take more observations and more studies before we can elucidate the true qualities of this little terrestrial exoplanet. But as of now, strictly from the information that we've yielded from years of observation, Ross 128b has the potential to host life, because it isn't bathed in lethal radiation. Its parent star is relatively quiet, without the regular, insanely dangerous blasts of high-energy radiation that's typical of most other red dwarf stars. Being spared the agony of solar sterilization, Ross 128b is that much more likely to host life.